we had a conversation with Jay Prince Jr., and he basically invited us to a club. And when we got there, basically looked like somebody else was having issues with us. Then we weren't allowed it.
They bringing them bad dice on you. Why you think they Duke the jeweler, they really couldn't get him? That's why they had to come on, homie.
For years, people have whispered about the Prince family, how they allegedly pressure rappers and celebrities when they come to Houston, promising protection that might not be what it seems. But what if I told you Jay Prince Jr. took that street reputation and twisted it into something even darker? We're talking about a slick setup disguised as Southern hospitality, high-stakes dice games that have ended in chaos, leaving people broke, hurt, and terrified. This guy's been accused of running one of the most cunning celebrity manipulation schemes the hip-hop world has ever seen. He supposedly draws in big-name artists with promises of love, loyalty, and safety, then wins their trust through fancy parties and over-the-top generosity. But behind all that shine, there's talk of rigged games where the house always seems to come out on top. And when guests catch on or refuse to play along, that's when things start getting dangerous. Today, we're breaking it all down, from his circle of close associates like Little Cam Wolf and Big Caprice to the federal attention that's now surrounding this entire network. We'll uncover what really happened to Duke the jeweler, who reportedly lost his life after a game went too far, and how Takeoff's tragic passing may be connected to the same setup. Plus, we'll talk about why 6ix9ine supposedly turned down an invitation to Houston after Jay Prince Jr. allegedly tried to pull him into a trap. Things are about to get real shocking.
Everybody in Texas know what the play is. If you rapping, you celebrity, if you like the strip club, you like to do this, you check in with them, they bringing them bad dice on you. Why you think they Duke the jeweler, they really couldn't get him? That's why they had to come on, homie.
By the end of this video, you'll see how one man's hunger for power turned Houston into a danger zone for rising stars, and why every artist should hear this story before ever setting foot in H-Town. Stay tuned, because this one turns dark fast. Let's talk about who we're really dealing with here. Jay Prince Jr., son of the legendary Jay Prince Sr., the man who built Rap-A-Mott Records, grew up surrounded by hip-hop royalty. But this isn't about his father's legacy. It's about how Jay Prince Jr. allegedly flipped his family name into a tool for control, taking advantage of artists who pass through Houston looking for connections and safety. See, when rappers land in Houston, they expect Southern hospitality, good food, luxury hangouts, and love from the city. What they don't expect is to get caught up in what some have described as a slick gambling setup designed to drain their wallets and leave them in serious trouble. According to multiple reports, including wild claims from WAC 100, Jay Prince Jr. has been accused of running what people are calling a celebrity trap operation. The formula? Simple, yet dangerously effective. Befriend the artist, make them feel at home, and then bring them into a dice game that's supposedly just for fun. But behind the scenes, the odds are stacked. The house always wins. And when someone figures it out or refuses to play along...
Jay Prince Jr.
Yeah, Junior.
So he starts an argument trying to take some from some dudes.
Just like Debo on him. You know, dude be taking he aggressive with the women.
Well, don't say taking.
He got cases, bro. He got...
That's when things start hitting the roof. Some of these moments have ended in chaos, leaving fans shocked and questioning what's really happening behind the scenes in Houston's hip-hop world. This isn't just street gossip. This story's got real names, real arrests, and a pattern that's been unfolding for years. Federal attention is already on it, investigations have been confirmed, and the whole setup is finally starting to surface. To really grasp how serious this is, you've got to understand the power game behind the scenes. Jay Prince Sr. built his name through legit business deals, and by protecting artists in the hip-hop scene, he earned deep respect because he used his influence to lift others up and protect the culture. But his son, Jay Prince Jr., allegedly flipped that same reputation into something darker, using it as a personal advantage instead of a badge of honor. The Prince name holds serious weight in Houston, so when Jay Prince Jr. steps up to someone, they're not just meeting any street figure. They're face to face with what many consider hip-hop royalty. That kind of automatic credibility lowers people's defenses. Folks start to think they're in good company, dealing with family, but that's where the danger begins. J. Prince Jr. didn't just inherit his father's fame, he studied it. He learned how to turn charm and Southern hospitality into powerful tools, making people feel safe and valued right before taking advantage of their trust. It wasn't random or sloppy. It was a calculated play built on influence and image. This was no small-time street hustle. It was a full-on lesson in psychological control. And before we unpack the reported crimes and schemes, we have to look at what J. Prince Jr. had growing up next to his father.
So you think you checking in over here, you checking home, these ain't having you checking in for the well-being and the safety of you just because you black?
J. Prince Sr. is a real legend, the man behind Rap-A-Lot Records, who launched careers, protected artists from shady industry figures, and built a powerhouse off respect and hustle. J. Prince Sr. was respected for living by a strict code. Protect your circle, move with integrity, and never let outsiders disrespect what you've built. Artists like Scarface, the Ghetto Boys, and many others trusted him not just with their careers, but with their safety. That loyalty was earned through years of consistent moves and real leadership. But somewhere down the line, J. Prince Jr. allegedly flipped those same principles into something darker. Instead of protecting artists, people say he began taking advantage of them. Instead of building legit business ventures, he was accused of crafting elaborate setups. And instead of earning respect, he leaned on his family's legacy to gain trust, and then allegedly used it for personal benefit. The shift didn't happen overnight. According to people close to the situation, J. Prince Jr. started small, maybe taking advantage of artists in vulnerable moments or testing scams on those who wouldn't push back. But once he realized he could get away with it, the plans reportedly became bigger, smarter, and far more dangerous.
What's most disturbing is how he's said to have turned his father's wisdom into a weapon. J. Prince Sr. had taught him how to read people, how to build loyalty, and how to make others feel like family. But J. Prince Jr. allegedly used those same skills to spot easy targets, play on emotions, and create a false sense of safety before making his move. Instead of keeping Houston a safe space for visiting artists, J. Prince Jr. allegedly turned his family's powerful name into bait for manipulation. To really get how dangerous this game was, you've got to understand the mind tricks behind it. This wasn't just about dice or money. It was about using deep psychological tactics to break down even the strongest, smartest people in the industry. First, let's talk about reputation leverage. When J. Prince Jr. steps to someone, he's not just another face in the crowd. He's the son of a hip-hop legend, part of a dynasty that's been respected for decades. That legacy instantly creates a false sense of safety. People drop their guard because they assume he's coming from a place of respect and loyalty. Then comes the isolation move. When artists land in Houston, they're often out of their comfort zone, away from their usual security, managers, and friends who keep them grounded. That distance from their circle makes them easier to influence. And according to sources, J. Prince Jr. knew exactly when to approach people, when they were relaxed, celebrating, or off guard. And finally, the most clever part, the hospitality trap. In the South, especially in hip-hop culture, showing love is everything. When someone takes you to fancy restaurants, introduces you to local stars, covers every tab, and treats you like family, it builds a sense of trust, even loyalty. You start feeling like you owe them something, like you have to return the love or follow their lead. Fourth comes the slow setup. J. Prince Jr. doesn't jump straight into talking about gambling. He plays the long game. He builds trust first, makes his targets feel comfortable, like they're part of the inner circle. By the time the dice game even comes up, their guard is completely down, thinking it's all just fun and friendship. Then comes social proof. These dice games aren't some private backroom scene. They're full of familiar faces, all laughing, playing, and acting like everything's legit. When you see other people joining in and having fun, it creates the illusion that it's safe, that it's normal. That's how suspicion disappears, and people let their defenses slip. Next, there's the ego play. Let's be real, rappers and celebrities often have strong confidence. It's part of what made them stars. J. Prince Jr. is said to have used that pride against them, framing the dice game as a way to prove yourself, to show you belong with the elite. Saying no could look like fear, while joining in feels like showing strength and status. It's a clever psychological move that pushes people right where he wants them. Put all those tactics together, trust, isolation, social pressure, and ego manipulation, and you've got a setup that feels impossible to escape. By the time someone realizes what's happening, it's usually too late. They're surrounded, uncomfortable, and miles away from anyone who can help. And make no mistake, this wasn't a solo mission. According to reports from WAC 100, J. Prince Jr. allegedly had a full crew working the system, each person playing a role, from setting up the games to controlling the vibe. At the heart of this whole setup were three key figures: Lil Cam, Wolf, and Big Caprice. These weren't just some buddies tagging along. They were reportedly seasoned operators who knew exactly how to run a smooth and convincing gambling setup. Each one had a specific role, and together they made the entire scheme look effortless. Lil Cam was known as the main dice handler, the one controlling the rhythm of the game. His job was to manage how the dice moved, knowing when to use normal ones and when to switch things up to tilt the odds. He had to move slick, fast hands, cool under pressure, making every roll look natural while keeping the illusion alive. Wolf's position was all about presence and control. He wasn't there to cause scenes. His main job was to keep the vibe in check. If anyone started getting suspicious or asking too many questions, Wolf would step in with subtle intimidation, not through force, but through attitude and energy. Just his look or tone was enough to remind people to stay quiet and keep playing. Big Caprice played the charm card. He was the life of the room, cracking jokes, easing tension, and keeping everyone feeling good. Whenever the mood got tight or someone started doubting the game, Big Caprice would swoop in with laughs and distractions, making sure the guests stayed relaxed and focused on fun, not what was really happening. But the operation didn't stop with just those three. There were lookouts stationed nearby, watching for unwanted attention. There were money handlers keeping track of every dollar, and even extras, people pretending to be ordinary players just there to enjoy a night of dice. The level of planning behind this setup was wild. It was way beyond a simple hustle. They had backup strategies ready if things didn't go as planned, step-by-step protocols for dealing with anyone who got suspicious, and even escape routes when law enforcement started looking too closely. This wasn't some casual street game. This was a highly organized operation built on precision and control. What makes it even more unsettling is how they brought in new recruits. According to several reports, J. Prince Jr. would spot young, ambitious street guys, the kind who were hungry for money and status, and slowly pull them into the circle. He'd start small, letting them handle security or basic errands, and then gradually give them more serious roles until they were deep in it. This recruiting tactic served two purposes. It gave them a constant rotation of people who could take the blame if things went sideways, and it built a system of loyalty mixed with fear. Once someone was part of it, walking away wasn't easy. The deeper they got, the more they felt trapped, too loyal, too involved, and too scared to speak out. They even had different playbooks depending on who they were targeting. Rappers got one type of approach, athletes another, and business figures a completely different treatment. They studied their targets closely, learned their habits, spotted their weak spots, and used that info to tailor the setup for maximum control.
Step 1. Target identification. J. Prince Jr. and his crew didn't just go after random people. They picked their targets carefully. They studied who was coming to Houston, how much money they moved with, who was in their circle, and what kind of personality they had. Social media made their job even easier. They could follow every post, every flex, every location tag. From flashy jewelry to fancy cars, they gathered all the info they needed before making a move. Step 2. The approach. J. Prince Jr. usually made his move through mutual contacts or by showing up at the same events as his target. The first encounter was always smooth, respectful, and friendly. He'd make the artist feel appreciated, saying things like, "Yo, I heard you're in town. My family's got love for what you're doing." Then came the offer.
Let me show you some real Houston hospitality. That line alone made people feel welcomed, not warned. Step 3, the courtship phase. This part could last a few hours or even days, depending on how long the person stayed in the city. J. Prince Jr. would go all out. Fine dining, VIP access at top clubs, connections with local stars, and sometimes even handing out gifts or loans that didn't need to be paid back. The goal? To build trust, make the guest feel special, and create a sense of mutual respect or even a little bit of debt. Step 4, the setup. Once the target felt completely at ease, J. Prince Jr. would casually bring up the dice game. Nothing serious, just a friendly invitation. Yo, my boys are shooting dice tonight. You should pull up, might make some quick cash. It always sounded like an opportunity, never a trap. But behind that easy tone was the start of something much bigger and far more dangerous. Step 5, the game. The setup always made the target feel like they were the one choosing to join in. The location? Always somewhere fancy or familiar, maybe a luxury home, a private VIP lounge, or a back room at a high-end club. Everything about the environment screamed comfort and safety. There'd be a crowd of people laughing, drinking, and joking around, making it all look like a friendly social night, nothing serious. The game would start slow, using regular dice and small bets to build the vibe. The target might even win a few rounds early on just to build their confidence. Then came the switch. Once the energy was right and the stakes climbed higher, the crew would change gears. That's when the trick dice came out. Smooth, unnoticeable, and perfectly timed. The crew would start winning more often, but not enough to seem suspicious. Every few rounds, the target would still win, just enough to keep them hooked and thinking luck was about to flip in their favor. As the night rolled on, the money flow shifted hard. The target would start losing more and more, little by little, until it became serious. The crew was sharp at reading body language. If someone looked frustrated or ready to walk, they'd adapt fast. Sometimes they'd ease up and let the person win a bit to keep them playing. Other times, they'd apply subtle pressure. You're not going to tap out while you're down, are you? Playing on pride and ego to pull them back in. Once the target was either tapped out or getting too suspicious, the game would quietly wrap up. If everything went as planned, the person would leave thinking they just had a streak of bad luck, maybe annoyed, but never realizing how carefully the whole night had been orchestrated. This was the point where things could turn dangerous. If a target figured out the game was rigged, demanded their money back, or threatened to go public, that's when the crew switched into full defense mode. They couldn't afford to let word spread about what was really happening, so they'd do whatever it took to protect their operation and keep their image intact. What made this setup so powerful was its flexibility. The crew could adjust their strategy depending on who they were dealing with and how big the stakes were. Smaller names might just lose some cash and walk away, thinking it was bad luck. But high-profile guests, the ones with real influence or big followings, got handled more carefully. If someone pushed back too hard, things could escalate quickly, and that's when situations got truly serious. And that brings us to Duke the Jeweler, a name that still sends chills through the hip-hop community. His story shows exactly how this entire system could spiral out of control when a confident, successful person refused to play along. Duke wasn't just another player in the room. He was a respected businessman who made his name designing custom jewelry for major artists. He had money, power, and recognition, exactly the kind of person the crew loved to pull into their circle. When Duke came to Houston, he was treated like royalty. According to multiple sources, J. Prince Jr. personally made sure Duke experienced the best of the city, from high-end restaurants to private events filled with local stars. Duke was feeling the energy, convinced he'd found real friendship in Houston. After a night full of parties and good vibes, the invitation to the dice game came naturally. He trusted the people around him and thought it was just another fun part of the Houston nightlife. When J. Prince Jr. suggested rolling some dice, Duke saw it as harmless, fun, a way to bond with his new crew. But that's where things took a shocking turn. According to reports shared by WAC 100's inside sources, someone in the crew made a huge mistake. a mix-up that would change everything. They accidentally handed the loaded dice to Duke instead of keeping them for the crew, and once he started rolling, Duke couldn't miss. He was hitting big, winning round after round. He started stacking up serious cash, reportedly hundreds of thousands of dollars, right in front of J. Prince Jr.'s own team. In a fair game, that would have just been a lucky streak, but in a setup built on control, this was a total disaster. The crew was forced to sit there and watch their own trick backfire on them.
They couldn't call Duke out because that would expose what they've been doing all along. They couldn't shut the game down too suddenly either. That would make things look suspicious. So they were stuck, trapped in a plan that had completely flipped on them. As Duke kept winning, the tension in the room started rising fast. The smiles faded, the laughter slowed, and frustration started showing. This wasn't how the night was supposed to go. The same dice that were meant to guarantee the crew's win were now handing their mark of fortune right in front of their eyes. Duke had no clue what was really going on. He thought the night was pure luck, a wild winning streak that couldn't be stopped. When the dice game wrapped up, he walked away with a massive stack of cash, feeling grateful for the invite and thrilled to celebrate with his new circle of friends. To him, it was just good vibes and good fortune. But behind the scenes, that win had just made him a target. The crew wasn't about to let Duke leave with all that money, not because it truly belonged to them, but because his success exposed a flaw in their setup. If word got out that their operation could be beaten, their whole reputation would crumble. They needed the money back, and more importantly, they needed to make sure the story never spread. So they made a move, a trap wrapped in a party invitation. They told Duke, "Yo, come through to this show, let's celebrate your big win." Duke, still riding high from the dice game, agreed without hesitation. He thought it was all love, another night of fun with his new friends. But what he didn't know was that the celebration had a darker motive behind it. At the concert, Duke showed up looking fresh, jewelry shining, designer bags in hand, and yes, carrying that bag full of winnings from the game. He was in full celebration mode, laughing, flashing his success, and enjoying the night, completely unaware that every move he made was being watched closely. According to reports, the crew used the event to study him, when he moved, who he talked to, when he was alone. They weren't planning a random hit. This was carefully organized. What looked like a robbery on the surface was really something far more cold-blooded, a setup designed to silence Duke and cover up what had gone wrong during that fateful dice game. When the show ended, Duke made his way toward his car, alone, relaxed, and completely unaware of what was about to happen next. That's when everything changed. According to reports, several men approached him in the parking area, demanding he hand over the money he'd won earlier that night. But Duke wasn't backing down. He believed he'd earned that cash fair and square, and he wasn't about to just give it up. That moment of defiance sealed his fate. The attackers couldn't risk letting him walk away. They knew his faces, his names, and the truth about the operation. What happened next was tragic. Duke tragically lost his life in the parking lot. But here's where the story takes an even darker twist. The attackers didn't strip him of his jewelry. Duke was still wearing hundreds of thousands of dollars worth of gold, diamonds, and designer pieces when authorities found him. The only thing missing was the bag of cash, the same winnings from that fateful dice game. That detail made everything clear. This wasn't some random street robbery gone wrong. It was a calculated hit designed to recover a specific sum of money and silence the one person who could expose what was really happening. Duke the jeweler lost his life because he accidentally won in a game that was never meant to be fair. He became the victim of a ruthless system that valued money and reputation over everything else. And while his passing shook the hip-hop community, it was far from the only tragedy connected to this operation. Because next came a case that rocked the entire music world. The loss of Takeoff from Migos. The events surrounding his passing revealed just how far-reaching and dangerous this hidden network in Houston had truly become. According to several reports, Quavo and Takeoff were in Houston when they received the same warm welcome J. Prince Jr. was known for giving his guests. The luxury treatment, the friendly energy, and that slow build of trust that made people feel like right at home. But this time, the stakes were high sky. The guests weren't just anyone. They were major stars with real money,
power and industry reach. That night's dice game was on another level. We're talking serious cash on the table, the kind of money that could make even big names take notice. Quavo was the one playing, and at first, everything seemed normal. Laughter, small talk, the usual friendly vibe. But as the night went on, the game shifted fast. Quavo started losing, and not just pocket change. Sources claimed he lost over $100,000 in just a short span of time. For most, that kind of loss would sting, but for Quavo, it was more than that. Something didn't feel right. He's no rookie when it comes to gambling or street games. He's been around money, been around people who know the hustle, and he knows how a dice game is supposed to flow. But this one felt off. The same three faces, Lil Cam, Wolf, and Big Caprice, kept winning in a repeating pattern that made everything look staged. Leaked audio from that night reportedly captured the moment things started to spiral. You can hear the shift, the tension, the frustration, the unbelief. Quavo wasn't just angry about losing money, he was furious because he realized he'd been played. That hospitality he thought was genuine suddenly looked like part of the setup. On the leaked audio, you can hear Quavo getting frustrated, saying he doesn't want to talk about basketball, he wants to focus on the dice. But anyone listening closely knows what he really meant. I know something is off and I want my money back. The tension was thick. Quavo had lost too much and he wasn't the type to stay quiet when something didn't add up. His patience was gone, and that's when he made the demand that would change everything. He told them to switch the dice. Now, in a fair game, that kind of request would be totally normal, just a way to make sure everything is clean. But in a setup built on deception, that's basically an open accusation of cheating. Quavo was calling them out in front of everyone, and the room went silent. The crew couldn't change the dice without revealing the truth, but refusing would make them look guilty. They were cornered, and cornered people can make desperate moves.
Reports say the main argument was between Quavo and Lil Cam, one of the core members of J. Prince Jr.'s dice circle. Lil Cam allegedly understood what was at stake. If Quavo exposed the setup, the entire operation would crumble. The money, the reputation, the influence, gone overnight. As the words got sharper and voices got louder, the tension in the room hit its breaking point. Everyone could feel it. The energy had shifted from friendly to dangerous in seconds. You had Quavo, a successful rapper with serious connections, standing up and calling out a crew of smooth-talking hustlers for cheating him out of big money. You had Takeoff, quiet, calm, just there to back up his uncle, completely uninvolved in the argument. And surrounding him was a room full of people tied to an operation that couldn't risk being exposed. That's when everything spiraled out of control. In the chaos that followed, arguments turned into shouting, shouting turned into panic, and suddenly weapons were drawn. Multiple people started firing, and in the middle of that confusion, Takeoff, who hadn't said a single word in the argument, was tragically caught in the crossfire and lost his life. Reports later suggested that the individual involved had connections to the same dice game circle that had faced allegations of scamming artists for years. This wasn't some random late-night club incident. This was the tragic consequence of an operation built on greed, pride, and deception. Soon after, Lil Cam, one of J. Prince Jr.'s known associates, was taken into custody in connection with Takeoff's passing. Think about that for a second. One of the very same people tied to the loaded dice crew, now facing charges for the loss of one of hip-hop's most loved and respected talents. That's no coincidence. That's what happens when a system built on manipulation finally implodes. Takeoff's passing wasn't just another tragic headline. It was a turning point that showed how far things had gone. He was a young man who poured his life into his craft, spreading joy, energy, and creativity to millions of fans. He stayed out of drama, out of controversy, and never disrespected anyone. And yet, he became the victim of a situation born out of greed and ego, all because his uncle refused to be taken advantage of by people who were supposed to show them love and respect. What makes this tragedy even harder to accept is that Takeoff's passing could have been prevented if J. Prince Jr. had kept things clean, if the dice games had been real, if the business moves had been honest, if the circle around him wasn't built on intimidation.
Takeoff would still be here today. Instead, one of hip-hop's most peaceful and talented artists lost his life because someone's greed and ego went too far. Takeoff's passing became a painful reminder of how corruption and ego can destroy everything good in the culture. It wasn't about rivalry or street tension. It stemmed from deeper issues that had been building behind the scenes. That's something hip-hop should never forget and never excuse. But this setup wasn't limited to people who just happened to pass through Houston. J. Prince Jr. was reportedly reaching out to big names across the country, trying to draw them into his city under the guise of friendship and opportunity. And one of the most notable people he allegedly targeted was 6ix9ine. According to 6ix9ine himself, J. Prince Jr. was persistent, repeatedly trying to convince him to come down to Houston. These weren't casual invites or quick texts. It was a full-on campaign to get him there, to bring him into J. Prince Jr.'s space where he could be influenced and controlled. The pitch followed the same familiar playbook: respect, hospitality, and opportunity. Messages like, "Yo, you gotta come to Houston. My family got love for you. We can do some business, show you the real city." To someone on the outside, that would sound completely normal, like genuine love and industry networking. But anyone who knew about the loaded dice setup could see through it. It wasn't about friendship or business. It was about pulling people into a controlled environment where trust could be turned into a trap. But 6ix9ine wasn't new to the streets. He'd seen enough behind-the-scenes drama to know when something didn't feel right. Maybe it was how persistent the invites were. Maybe it was how vague the business opportunities sounded. Or maybe it was just pure instinct, but something in his gut told him to stay away. And honestly, that decision might have saved not just his money, but his life. Looking at how J. Prince Jr.'s alleged operation worked, 6ix9ine would have been a perfect mark. He was flashy, controversial, and polarizing, which meant that if something shady went down, fewer people might have believed his side of the story. He had money, fame, and an unpredictable image, all of which made him an ideal target for manipulation. And since he was often disconnected from the traditional hip-hop circles that offered protection, he would have been even more vulnerable once he hit Houston. So when 6ix9ine decided not to show up at an event where J. Prince Jr. was expecting him, the reaction spoke volumes. J. Prince Jr. reportedly got on stage surrounded by a massive crew, dozens of people, and publicly called 6ix9ine out by name. The goal wasn't just to talk, it was to humiliate, to apply public pressure, and to make 6ix9ine feel like he had to come to Houston to prove he wasn't scared or disrespectful. But pause and think about that for a second. Why would someone go to those lengths over one person missing an event? Why bring 50 people on stage just to call someone out unless their absence actually cost you something big? That kind of reaction doesn't come from hurt pride. It comes from a plan falling apart. That stage call-out wasn't about clout. It was a calculated psychological move. J. Prince Jr. was using 6ix9ine's ego and public reputation against him, hoping to push him into Houston on emotion alone. It was manipulation at its highest level, a mind game meant to pull 6ix9ine straight into the same trap so many others had already fallen into. Luckily for 6ix9ine, he didn't take the bait. He stayed far from Houston, avoided the setup, and lived to tell the story. But his close call exposed just how far J. Prince Jr. was allegedly willing to go to pull people into his operation. The situation with 6ix9ine didn't just show persistence, it revealed how wide-reaching this network really was. This wasn't just about scamming people who happened to stop by Houston. According to sources, J. Prince Jr. was actively trying to recruit victims from all over the country, using charm, influence, and reputation to pull them in. That's what made it so dangerous, and that's also what brought federal attention. Once these patterns started surfacing, reports say the FBI began taking notice, recognizing the setup as something much bigger than a local hustle. As the heat turned up, J. Prince Jr. reportedly went into full damage control mode. He started giving interviews, dropping statements, and trying to reshape the narrative, distancing himself from the Dice Games allegations and the serious consequences that followed. His appearance on $1 Million Worth of Game became a big moment in this saga, And what he didn't say spoke louder than what he did. When asked directly about the loaded dice rumors, he dodged the question. When asked about the violent incidents that happened after these games, he brushed it off as coincidence. His words said innocent, but his tone and body language told another story: guarded, uneasy, and defensive. His main talking point became clear: admit the dice games exist, but deny any wrongdoing. He said things like, "Yeah, we shoot dice sometimes, but it's all love, all legit. People are just trying to blame me for stuff I had nothing to do with." But the pattern was too obvious for people to ignore. The repeated tragedies, the same names, the same setups. When multiple people lose their lives after attending your dice games, when your own associates are getting arrested in connection with those incidents, the coincidences start looking a lot more like a cover-up. When federal investigators start zeroing in on your operation, it's hard to keep claiming innocence. J. Prince Jr. reportedly tried to protect himself behind his family name, constantly bringing up his father's legacy and the Prince family's massive contributions to hip-hop culture. He painted himself as a victim of false stories and jealousy. But that defense ended up backfiring. Instead of saving his image, it reminded everyone of how far he drifted from the values his father built his empire on: respect, loyalty, and integrity. People began comparing the two, and the contrast couldn't have been sharper. The media spin didn't stop there. J. Prince Jr. and his supporters allegedly launched a counter-campaign online, pushing back against the claims and questioning the credibility of anyone who spoke out. Social media started filling up with posts attacking witnesses, questioning their motives, and trying to twist the story to make it all look like a setup. But behind the posts and PR moves came something darker: an intimidation wave. Multiple reports claimed that people who spoke about the dice games or the controversial events surrounding them began facing pressure to stay quiet. The message was clear: keep quiet or deal with consequences. That right there shows how deep the fear ran. Because real business people don't need to silence witnesses, and innocent people don't need to threaten anyone to protect their name. The alleged cover-up became almost as incriminating as the operation itself. It showed how much J. Prince Jr. had to lose if the truth ever came out, and how desperate he was to control the story. But despite all the social media spin, the interviews, and the intimidation, federal agents were quietly building their case. Every move, every message, every pattern was being watched. If you found this breakdown eye-opening, hit that like button. Drop a comment with your thoughts and subscribe so you don't miss part 2, because this story is far from over. Things are about to get even more intense.